Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ochakde Show. This is a talk show or podcast where I interview entrepreneurs and inspiring individuals from all walks of life so we can learn from their stories and level up ourselves. Today, we have a very special guest, Nicole Rodrigues. She's the CEO and founder of NRPR Group, which is an award-winning PR agency in Beverly Hills. Nicole, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. Glad to hear you're doing good. Can you walk us through your childhood? Because I know you're from Fremont, California, and I'm also from Fremont, California. So can you walk us through your childhood, and then when did you become passionate about PR?
Great question. Though I don't live in Fremont anymore, I am a Fremont girl at heart. I was, born in Hayward, but raised in Fremont, right? So I was a Kaiser kid, and the closest hospital was that one in Hayward. So I can't technically say born and raised in Fremont, but technically when I went home as a baby, it was to my house in Fremont. So I had lived in Fremont basically my whole life up until I think mid 30s when I moved to Los Angeles. Or early 30s when I moved to Los Angeles. So I am a Fremont girl through and through. And one thing that I loved about my childhood in Fremont was how diverse it was already. And so for me, growing up, although my background is, I'm Puerto Rican and I also am Syrian, I didn't see a lot of friends that were specifically Puerto Rican or Syrian, but I had friends who were Mexican. I had Black friends. I had Chinese friends. I had Indian friends. I had white friends. And it was such a cool melting pot from day one that diversity was just part of the fabric of my life. And I think that makes Fremont really special because then growing up, we were all just very aware that there were differences and that they needed to be respected. And so, I had friends from all walks of life, and that really helped me to see the diversity in the world by seeing that in my city that I loved so much and still do very much. So how I got actually into PR is because of that diversity. So when I was going to Horner Junior High, Horner Hornets, I thought about getting into student council and leadership. I'd always been the type of person who was comfortable talking to my friends and just kind of whatever. That was naturally who I was. And so I slowly started thinking about student council, and I didn't run in junior high because I didn't quite get it. And then I saw who our 8th grade president was. And I was like, so the only reason this guy is our president, God bless him, is because nobody else really ran against him, but he doesn't represent our class. He wasn't really friends with our class, right? He was academic, great. He could speak and write a speech, but was he a leader? No. Because I knew friends of mine that were just like, oh, what a nerd, I'm not following him. And I just kept thinking, well, wait a minute. What we need is a representative of our class who bridges all of that. Someone who's smart, someone who can also write a speech, someone who can make people feel like we're all inclusive. Well, shoot, I think that person could be me. And so I was thinking about PR, my own personal brand, my self-image, all of those things leading up to, okay, I'm going to run for class council for high school, right? Because by 8th grade, it was already too late. But, I was already campaigning for like Valentine's Day Princess. That's like the equivalent of homecoming queen in 8th grade. And I got that, right? And I was like, so it's really about making sure that people know authentically who you are. You show up as who you are. You work with the different groups of people, psychologically know what they need, authentically know what they need, and help get that message across so that they feel like my leader understands me, my leader represents me. And so when I tell people sometimes, I'm like, I think I pretty much discovered PR when I was 12. That's very true, right? And so then eventually after high school, I just found a major that was what I was naturally doing at Horner Junior High and through Irvington High School, mixed it in with a little bit of marketing, and I found a career. So thank you, Fremont.
Yeah, I love Fremont too, and that's an awesome story. Can you tell us more about, on top of NRPR Group, you have Beverly Hills Boss, Perfect Pitch, Young Dreamers. Can you tell us more about those three?
Yeah. So NRPR is, of course, yeah, my core, my baby, I guess my second child, I call it, because my daughter is child number one, and baby number two is NRPR. After I started NRPR, I realized that we were becoming successful, and I thought, well, you know what? I want other girls from towns like Fremont or other towns, people who didn't believe or were told that they shouldn't believe in their dreams, right? So Young Dreamers came about because of that, where I wanted people to know that, especially at a young age, even if people are telling you you can't have it or that's not normal. I had a friend of mine in high school that was like, you want to move to Beverly Hills? I'm like, yeah, one day. Here I am, 15, and already my own friends are telling me I shouldn't go there because I don't know anybody there. Like, I wouldn't be welcomed. And so I just strive to do it anyway, right? And so I wanted young people to know that, like, if you could do things in a positive way, the universe will work in your favor. You just have to believe in yourself and not listen to other people. So that was where the premise of Young Dreamers started. I started that in 2017 and basically developed workshops to be able to go to schools, go to leadership classes, go to smaller elementary schools, help kids really work on building that self-confidence so that they're likely to reach their dreams. Then that also got me thinking, well, maybe I should write a book about my journey and about the journey that I had as an entrepreneur, the things that, that set me back, the challenges that I have. Because on the surface, everybody just kind of sees, what's happening. But behind the scenes, becoming an entrepreneur is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. But I've continued to, push through it. And 8 years later, my company is doing very well. And it's really because I was able to continue, right? And not give up. And then finally, Perfect Pitch. With what I do, a lot of who I speak to are members of the media. And especially now when people are talking about, like, well, the media are bad and the media are this. And I'm like, you know what? You're talking about my friends. These people in the media who are sincerely trying to do a good job are good human beings. And hearing their side of the story, media people don't often get to tell their side because they're so busy telling other people's stories that just became my platform to help people actually see these solid members of the media are real human beings trying to just do their job.
I love how it's PR, Perfect Pitch. I love that.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And we were talking about media. Can you talk about what exactly PR is, what it stands for people that might not know, and then why is that important for society?
Oh, yeah. So the easiest way to think about PR is it's almost like your brand or your personal image, I would say police, right? Like sometimes I'm just like, nope, come on, like stay whatever. But it's like, not that I'm policing the thing, but it's like I'm helping make sure that your true authentic self, your true authentic brand, if you're the owner of a company, is coming through and using the media, utilizing social media, all the positive platforms, right? Because I'll tell you, there are people in PR who use PR for just about everyone, or also for negativity, right? You hear of propaganda, that is negative PR, right? So that's dark PR. So if you have seen The Wizard of Oz, are you a good witch or are you a bad witch? I am a good witch. So I know the magic that PR can create, and I can help a company with their image. I can help a CEO with their image and help that, especially in the times where things might be tough, right? A company might be going through a layoff. Well, how do you communicate that well to make sure that people do understand that the layoff isn't because you're running out of money? The layoff is because you're switching things up in the company, and you have to this is life. You have to make these moves. And by the way, here are the positive things that are going to come out of it. Because a lot of the times, one of the worst decisions a CEO has to make is whether or not to have a layoff, because they know that people's jobs are at stake. And so a communicator, a PR person, my job is to work with the leaders to make sure that we're communicating it well, communicating it clearly, and also sort of helping police the image to make sure that people do understand, wow, you know what? This was a hard decision that this company had to make, and I still believe in them, and have them still walk away feeling good about that brand. So in a nutshell, that's really what PR is. Why it's important for society is because you've played the telephone game, right? Where you say, whisper one thing in one person's ear, it gets to that person, it gets to another person, gets to another person. By the time it gets to the end of that telephone game, what happens? Oh, well, someone said that they robbed the store and then they took the person's car, and it was like, no, I just said I opened up a new store and bought a brand new car, right? So the communicator really helps to make sure that the audiences are clearly told what's really happening, so that there isn't all of this crazy confusion and people are spinning around thinking, oh my God, a store was robbed and a car was stolen, right? So that's why it's important. And when we read the news, when we watch the news, usually without a PR person, the news media aren't psychics, right? They work with the PR people internally to make sure that those stories are told.
Got it. And with the PR agency, how does that exactly work? Like, do you get on meetings with the clients, and do they share their part of the story? And then how do you all like combine it and write it into an article? How does that all work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So oftentimes what will happen is a client that I'm working with will say, perfect example, one of my clients just this week announced that they had acquired another company. Now imagine how much planning has to be done before an acquisition actually gets talked about. So weeks before this announcement, the CEO, the CMO, and the COO let me know, we're buying this other company. Here's what this means to us. Here's what that means to healthcare in general, because they play in the healthcare space. Here's what this means to the company being acquired and their existing customers, right? So that we understand the narrative from all of those different perspectives. And I could say, okay, let me pull together an announcement that clearly articulates from each camp why this is important and why people should actually be excited about it and not be fearful. Like, oh, they bought this company, they're going to destroy it. They bought this company, oh, whatever. And then talking to the CEO of that company that was acquired. How excited are you that you've just been bought by this company? What does that mean for you? Getting that positive side of it, so that then once that is completed, right, you have an announcement, you can go to members of the media under something called embargo, and you say, this news is not going to be dropped until June 21st. I know right now it's June 5th. I want you to work this into your cycles. So sometimes when you pick up the newspaper, or I guess people don't pick up the newspaper as much anymore, or they open up their news and they say, wow, this company just bought this company. Well, know that the PR person was working with the executives weeks in advance, working with the media weeks in advance to tell everybody right at the perfect time, at the same time, so that when you're reading it once here, you also see another outlet wrote about it from their perspective, another outlet wrote about it from their perspective, and you can't miss the news, right? So we create this perfect orchestration of the news, and that's what an agency will do.
Got it. I'm learning a lot today, so thanks for sharing all that information with me. This is always a fun question to ask you, because I know this is super impressive, but which celebrities has you guys worked with?
Oh, got it, of course. So one of my favorites, I'll have to do a Gemini Cusp shout out. Of course, working with Lionel Richie on behalf of my client Heel was probably, he's just as genuine and good and big-hearted in person as you would imagine. Obviously, somebody who writes about love songs and love and everything else. Like, he is just a gem of a human being. And it was an honor to set up a lot of interviews for him. And I just have nothing but amazing things to say. So we'll call out Lionel Richie. Ray J, who I just adore. Him and Princess, his wife, are incredible humans. And being able to work with him on his launch of Raycon, which is his technology company, such a huge honor. And just love them both, to death to this day. And getting to also meet his sister Brandy in that process was a really cool highlight, because I was a big fan of hers while I was at Horner, you know, listening to her music in junior high. And Brandy's just a sweet, sweet person. In my career, I've also worked with people like Paris Hilton. She was actually very, very sweet when I was at Miller PR. People like Rachel Ray I've worked with. Gosh, there's so many. Ludacris helped with an app that he was launching. Who else off the top of my head? I mean, there are a lot, so it's really hard. And to me, it's like I just see them as them. So I'm just kind of like, oh, celebrities. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That person's a celebrity, and now they're like, you know, they're friends. So I guess those are some of the highlights. There are tons more, but Gene Simmons, he was super fun. So those are some off the top of my head.
That's amazing. This is the last two questions I asked all my guests. I'll just ask them at once. What's your best advice for teens? And then what was your favorite part of being on the show?
I love it. So my best advice to teens, honestly, this might sound really, really silly,
Okay.
but you really have to drum up your fire up arsenal. There are going to be things in life that are going to knock you down throughout life. That is life, right? So if life was all roses and easy, you're not learning anything, right? You learn so much from being knocked down or going through a hard time. So what I say by your arsenal, your toolkit, whenever I was going through anything really tough, especially in junior high, high school, college, I would journal. I would write those things down and sort of purge my emotions, get it out there. Because sometimes, especially in high school, college, you don't know who you can trust. So it was always really hard. Like, if I tell this friend, is she going to go gossip about this? If I tell this, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you tell yourself, if you're telling your journal, the cool thing is you can actually go back to that journal years later and see like, wow, how far have I come since that moment of total devastation, of feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Jeremy Perry broke up with me in the 8th grade. And now look, right? Sorry, shout out Jeremy, what's up? No, we're still good friends, but I'm like, I remember that in junior high, right? Like heartbreak for the first time. And now here I am like, okay, I'm good, right? Like I have lived through that heartbreak. And then things like your songs. Pay attention to songs that really lift you back up, that make you feel like you're happy, that you're worth it, that you can succeed. Because you do want to feel your feelings if ever you're sad or feeling down, but you don't want to live in that state. You have to psychologically help yourself. And if you can get yourself to that state, whether it be movies, whether it be music or journaling, that is the best advice that I could give to teens, is figure out your toolkit and your way of getting back up when life knocks you down, because life is going to knock you down. It's going to make you second guess whether or not you're doing the right things, saying the right things, being around the right people. Those are going to be those steady things that keep you moving forward. And then I guess last question, what was my favorite part of being on the show? I think one of my favorite parts is the fact that you are from Fremont, that you are an Irvington student, and Fremont and Irvington are just so in my heart, in the fabric of my life, in my soul, and who I am. And I think that I have such pride around that, and such pride in seeing you grow. I've been watching your growth since we first got to meet, and I'm just really proud of you. And I can't wait to see you continue in your journey, continue to grow up and just be a solid leader. But you're a great representative of Fremont. And it's an honor to have been asked to be on your show, and that you and I have stayed in contact. So yes.
Awesome. Thanks for the kind words, and thanks for being on the show. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, everyone. I'll see you guys next time.